Hello, we're Axa Axons, and this is our second episode
Yep.
of
We're
our
here.
of our neuroscience podcast.
Yeah, it's shifting.
Yes, we missed you guys so much, and today, there's a change of plans. We're not gonna continue our series for now. We're gonna talk about PTSD and taste perception. Oh, because it's a very prevalent issue.
So
Lots of
prevalent.
people suffer from
Yes.
post-traumatic
Stress disorder.
Yes.
So let's start with the basics. What is stress, Ava?
Oh gosh, that's such an interesting question. Stress is so interpretive because it can be psychological, it can be physiological. There's so many mechanisms behind it.
Yes, there's good stress.
Yeah.
There's bad stress. You want stress because stress helps you survive.
Yeah.
We learned this, the process of stress in general, when I don't know, you see
A lion.
a lion. Yes, you like every single day you see a lion,
Yeah.
and then your adrenal gland,
Of course.
yes, releases cortisol. No,
It's adrenaline. It's adrenaline first
Adrenaline.
because
Cortisol is later.
yes, adrenaline is the short-term response.
Yes, and you get like increased heart rates and sweat and your muscles.
Glucose to the muscles.
Yes, so that you can fight off the lion.
Not
Yes,
fight. You flee
Okay,
the lion.
You run. Depends on your
Yes.
response. Maybe you're a fighter, not a flighter.
Okay.
Is a flighter
Yes.
a word?
Maybe.
Whatever.
It's a word.
Yes, or you may freeze.
Yes.
Freeze is important in this lesson, guys.
And then there's the cortisol as well, which is more if you're stressed all the time. Maybe you're commuting to work for an hour each day and you get really sad and annoyed and just stressed out from that.
And cortisol will be very important in this class.
Yes.
Again, PTSD.
So what is PTSD?
Yeah, what is PTSD? So PTSD. Okay, so PTSD, it's usually, it may be one traumatic event, but a lot of the time it's a mix of different traumatic events. It is different in children and in adults because children are, their brains are still not developed, and they have better neuroplasticity. Like with language, it's easier for them to learn different languages, so it's also easier for them to get traumatized.
Yeah.
So but also on the other side, they can easier than adults. It's easier for them to get treatment and recover, or repress their most debilitating symptoms because they're
malleable. Yeah, they're very malleable people.
So, yes. Yeah, there was something interesting. This thing called transgenerational trauma.
Oh.
Yes, this guy that I was listening to, he was saying that he had patients, like children, because he was working with kids a lot, who showed PTSD symptoms, but they didn't have any traumatic events. However, when he would speak with their parents, then he will find out that the traumatic event happened to the parent, and that's to do
That's very interesting. Yeah. Actually, I've heard about something very similar to this. I am very genuinely interested.
No, I was just thinking about having different podcasts. You're like, yeah, that's so engaging.
Yes.
Yeah, so, nature versus nurture.
Yeah, and maybe it's epigenetics, something turns on in their genes and then they pass that on to their children. Because it's recently we've been learning about epigenetics and, maybe Darwin wasn't always right with everything. And maybe there is some Lamarckism going on where it's some traits do get passed down. Acquired traits get passed down. So.
Yes.
I don't know. It'd be fun to do an experiment, torture a rat, for example. And then no, I'm kidding. Maybe put a rat in a very negative environment, let's say, and then see how they respond, and then maybe whatever that stimulus is, how do their offspring respond to that stimulus as well, and see if there's a correlation.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I also heard if it's a positive experience that they won't have that passed down onto their offspring. So
really?
Maybe it has to be a negative experience.
Maybe.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's only trauma can work for this. It's magic. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, another thing that I found really interesting was that a lot of the time ADHD is confused with PTSD because they have similar. They present themselves similarly to the outside. It's because ADHD, they have hyperactivity, yes. And people with PTSD, they have it was hyper arousal, I think, something like that. Mm-hmm. It sounds terrible. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was that people with ADHD are like moving, they're energetic all the time.
Yeah.
But people with PTSD, they get energized when they like get triggered.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many triggers. There can be many triggers. They are a lot of the time not known to the person themselves, and it's not like you're a veteran, right? And you see a gun. It's not that you see a gun. It's more like you see a red color, and like your like opponent who did something to you was like wearing a red color or something like that. It's more like sensual, and that's how it connects to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Senses.
Yeah.
So yeah, where was I? ADHD. Yeah, and there was another symptom: dissociation.
Hey, that's pretty close. Rumination,
Fair.
dissociation.
Fair. No, yeah, they are may get, I guess, dissociated because of the coping
Mm-hmm.
with everything, and that could be confused with just lack of attention,
yeah,
focus. So yeah, there's that risk. And also, the person said that people with ADHD might be more at risk for developing PTSD, but I don't know how or why. I just heard that. Yeah, that's. Now we can talk about cortisol.
Why? What's with cortisol?
Oh, it's so interesting, Eva. I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah?
No. So in normal people, not Eva, in normal people, cortisol rises up in the morning.
Oh yeah, of course not me. That
Not
like
Eva.
even though I sweat like every single
No.
morning and I'm like
No.
I'm tired and
Yeah, that's exactly why.
Yeah.
You're not aware. You're not like out there. Your cortisols don't rise until
of
I
course.
don't know, lunch.
Yes.
So whatever. In normal people, cortisol rises in the morning. It also has some bumps during meals after you eat, and then it goes down in the evening. But with people with PTSD, the cortisol rises in the evening when you're supposed to be sleeping, but you don't sleep. And this is also the period of time where people with PTSD like get nightmares.
Insomnia maybe?
I guess maybe. I'm not exactly sure, but I guess it applies because yeah, like lack of ability to sleep or like lack of ability to get the deep sleep.
Yeah.
For kids like I don't know, being scared, bedwetting, yeah, fears, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, there's interesting things. I just need to remember them. Okay, yeah, this is something I didn't know. That younger people, their receptors are more spread out in the brain.
Receptors for what?
Everything, like they're just like spread out. I think everything. If not for everything, then for glucocorticoids.
I think that's for stress, right? For cortisol?
Yes.
Okay.
Cortisol is a type of glucocorticoid.
Okay.
Don't know how to say it, whatever. So they're like spread out in the brain. So the younger, the more receptors the kids have in the hippocampus and frontal cortex. And these areas are also related to the symptoms of PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
It's for like memory, so like hippocampus. And then the frontal cortex, like control, problem solving, stuff like that. Frontal limbic pathway is a thing. Frontal, like connecting frontal to limbic pathway. And that also connects to amygdala. Oh, there was something really interesting about amygdala. Yes, now, again, cortisol. That kids with a higher level of cortisol have less volume of hippocampus. Hippocampus is smaller. People with less cortisol have bigger hippocampus. People with more cortisol have smaller hippocampus.
Yeah, didn't we learn about this already in psychology? It's like if you're stressed all the time, it damages the hippocampal area.
Very, very fun.
So guys, just like don't be stressed out because that's going to damage your brain and then you're not going to remember anything. And that's why students are actually really stupid.
Yeah. Also, there was this was done on MRI, and then there was also done an fMRI. And they had to complete some sort of memory task. And the children with PTSD were compared, and people that did not have PTSD were compared. And normal kids activated their hippocampus more than the kids with no PTSD.
What type of memory task was it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh.
Because it's important to know because the hippocampus is important for long-term memory storage.
Yes.
Or like transferring short-term to long-term. And it's interesting as well because I would think that people with PTSD may have some parts of their memory that is hyperactive, because to remember their flashbulb, I guess. Flashbulb memories.
Yeah, and that takes us to amygdala.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so for amygdala to like calm down, I guess, prefrontal cortex helps it calm down. I don't know how. I don't remember.
The prefrontal cortex?
Yes.
Oh.
Like there's a pathway from the big system to the frontal cortex, and then somehow it like helps it calm down. And the frontal cortex is malfunctioning in people with PTSD, and they are less able to control the amygdala, so it doesn't calm down. So it's like overly emotional or something. I don't know.
And by the way, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for like your thoughts and your decision making and planning and organization. So it makes sense. It's like it's your executive functions basically.
Yes, and this was a study done with like looking at faces and like identifying their emotional expressions.
Oh,
Like
okay.
that. Yeah, and then also that kids are in general their amygdala is like more active, or like it's very quickly active. Like children activate their amygdala way quicker than adults.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also with teens as well and adolescents.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very emotional.
Yes.
I don't know if you're a teenage or a kid listener, you may know.
Yes. Also about veterans, it was also shown that veterans who developed PTSD the veterans who experienced like childhood trauma were more likely to develop PTSD. So it's like not only war, but like if they also had childhood trauma, that's increased the possibility of them developing PTSD.
Okay, so they're more vulnerable.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's with stress in general as well. Like if you're stressed, you're gonna end up being stressed by very simple things as well. Like I know that personally.
Yes. And like with, I already said that, but like with treatment, a lot of the time it's just like learning how to like, okay, so the guy was saying that he wants his patients to find some sort of coping mechanisms, coping with stress, but that's where like, so that the children get a sense of control over their own bodies, because like a lot of the time the stressor that they experienced was not like because of them. Like it wasn't like school, like, oh, we all have to go to school and we all have to, I don't know, study, and in a way it's our choice. Like we're going to IB not because we like, I don't know, just happen to be there. We can always jump out if we like. But like stressors, I don't know, something like abusive family, like that's not something that they could escape. So the treatment, the guy was he asks the children to get their own like tools. So like one of his patients would drink orange juice like every time she got stressed, which I don't know. That's like probably gives you too much vitamins or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, doesn't matter. I feel like stress is more harmful a lot of the time. Yeah. So yeah, and I lost my train of thought. I got an idea and I forgot. I don't remember.
Maybe you're just stressed out. Do you have PTSD?
Stressed out.
No self-diagnosing.
No. Yeah, no, I forgot completely. Yeah.
Do you want to learn a fun topic of taste?
Taste.
Yes.
What
yes.
about taste?
Yes. Taste is very interesting. I was listening to a podcast yesterday all about it, and it's actually one of the senses that is lesser known and researched, because apparently in the olden times there were like researchers were like, yeah, taste is like one of the lower senses, you know, like it's for the animals, the brutes that like they're eating.
What?
It's like, you know, there's no thinking behind it, so who cares about that type of sense, right? And then it's like the vision and the hearing, that's the most important, so that's where all the research goes. So taste is lesser known, and then
It's like women.
yeah, kind of. It's a marginalized community, taste. But yeah, there are 5 senses, and it's like bitter, salty, sweet, umami, and then
umami. What is that?
Wait, bitter, salty, sweet,
Sour.
sour. Ah, good. Yes, sour, and then umami. But
What is
umami,
umami?
yeah, that's the newer one that's recently been discovered. It's like savory, I guess. Yeah, but basically, it was found by this Japanese researcher who was he was eating some soup, and then suddenly he had this profound realization. He was like, "This soup, it doesn't really like taste like sweet, salty, or any of those other senses. It's something new. It's something different. Like." Yeah, and then it was like a broth or something like, and then there was seaweed in it as well. And so he started researching this new flavor, umami, and then taste and flavor are different. I'll come back to that. And he found like umami is perceived by this protein called glutamate, and well, actually amino acid, and glutamate is like one of the amino acids that is kind of like broken down. So when we taste it, it's our way of detecting proteins, and that's basically how we ingest proteins, because taste is actually really important to survival. You know, it motivates us to eat certain foods, like sugary foods. We love glucose. We need glucose to survive, and then salt as well. We need salt. And then, for example, like with bitter things, bitter indicates like poisonous things. So
yeah, like with color and birds, like or like no, not maybe birds, but like trees. Like if you see a colorful tree, that's poisonous. Don't come here.
Exactly. So and then umami is really interesting because we also need proteins. So what else? Also, there's another study where they put like, I'm not sure, it was metal wires, probably not wires, but like something metal onto people's tongues, and then they like sent metal signals to the tongue, and then it actually stimulated some tastes, like bitter, for example. Bitter, I think, was the most common one. But
wasn't there something about like if you lack iron, then you're gonna like the smell of metal more, or like the taste of the metallic taste? Because I think actually my mom told me that, and when my mom told me something, it might be passed from her grandparents who do not know science.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's true because I also heard it in the Let's Learn Everything podcast. But like, for instance, magnesium. That if you like magnesium, it's gonna taste better for you because you need magnesium. So like, also that relates to what you said about evolution, how something that tastes good, you want to eat that. Yeah. So like, if I like magnesium, I'm gonna want to eat the medication I have for magnesium because it tastes good because I like magnesium.
Then what about cocaine?
Oh, cocaine.
It doesn't taste good.
You don't ever. What is it that you like? Dopamine?
Yes, we love dopamine.
But you can get dopamine from like other things.
Yeah, that's true.
So the taste, you might just.
It's not necessary either. It needs to be like physiologically important, essential to our bodies. You know, like
not want but needs.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Or it's like survival. You know.
Yeah. Evolution.
Yes. Oh, another thing. It's kind of contingent to this, but they found with that weird metal experiment like a specific receptor for a bitter taste, and then that led to like this research about super tasters. So basically, these people can taste food like way more intensely than just normal people. And I don't really think they were saying like that's not really an advantage. Maybe in some scenarios, if like for example in the evolutionary old like hunter-gatherer days, if you were a gatherer and you were trying to find food for your tribe or something, then if you were a super taster, then you could just like eat a very small portion of like something and see if it's poisonous or not. Like if it's bitter, for example, and then you eat that, you ingest it, and then. But it's like if you really can sense that small amount of bitter, then you know that it could be poisonous and potentially protect the whole tribe. So, but I guess in the modern days,
unless you're working for like I don't know, like a secret agent and like
or chefs actually.
Yeah, or like the people that like just get paid bajillion of like dollars to like taste food. Yeah, and just be like, this sucks. We don't want this in our produce.
I think Gordon Ramsay is probably a super taster.
He's just angry.
Yeah,
he just has anger issues.
He has PTSD.
He has head trauma.
Maybe he's a super taster and a person with PTSD. Yes.
Sure.
Yes, we're diagnosing.
Yes. You have PTSD and you have PTSD and we all have PTSD. No.
But also, super taster, it's not really a condition. It's a spectrum, like most things. You know, you can be extremely sensitive or you can be in the middle. Obviously, most people are in the middle because average. And then there are some people who like can barely taste, which
I think maybe that's why some people don't appreciate food as much. Because if you can't taste it as much, like me and Mr. Beep.
Yes.
Like my mom, who are tired of food sometimes. But I do love coffee. So, and I do feel like I need bitterness.
That's so strange. But actually, they were saying how some people do like a little bitter because there are some other compounds within the bitter substance that can be beneficial, and so that's what attracts them. I don't like bitter things.
Actually, sometimes I feel like I could just like, if I had to choose bitter or sweet, I would probably choose bitter.
Wow.
I love my coffee. I can have coffee without sugar. I prefer coffee without sugar. Sugar and milk, food is most of the time. Yes.
There wasn't one interesting study where it's like obese people actually have less taste buds. Oh wait, no, I want to. I just want to mention flavor and taste are actually different. So flavor is way more complex. It's like the whole mechanism, whole experience you get when you eat a food. So that's like the physical sensation in your mouth, not only the chemical, but like it's the texture and the smell. And then taste is like, it just refers to how it acts on your tongue and then how it is perceived. So the people who are obese, they actually do have less taste receptors. And then their strategy, well, not really strategy, it's not like conscious, but like then they eat more food because they have less taste receptors and they need more like stimulus to
more dopamine. Taste. Yeah, let's go.
And then for cocaine, yeah, sure. And then if you lose weight, then you actually get more receptors and then you become more sensitive to the taste.
Yeah.
So it's like, because then it motivates you to eat more of the glucose, for example, sugar.
So that makes sense.
What is it like? Hunger is the best sauce. Yes.
Like when you're really hungry and the parents are like, "Oh, it's fine. You'll eat more now. You'll appreciate the food better."
Yes, exactly.
That is true. Oh my gosh, yeah. I feel like some of the best meals I ate in my life would not have tasted that good. Like when I was hiking a mountain, whatever, the highest mountain here.
Yes. Mount Everest.
Yes.
You climbed Mount Everest
and while we were climbing, I was eating this like the most basic, like baked goods filled with cheese, and I was the happiest food probably in my life.
That sounds so good though.
It does sound so good, but it was so much better because I had the view. I was tired.
That's amazing.
I had limited amount of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, another interesting thing that they found was that when you're like in a positive mood, you tend to perceive the food as more tasty.
Actually, that may connect to eating disorders.
Oh, wow.
I'm just getting connected in my head. Because like if you're sad, like that's my brother. If you're sad and you don't
then you don't want to eat food.
Yeah, I guess. But then if you also like view the food as like terrible and you associate eating food as like tragedy, then you're not gonna even enjoy it at all. It might even taste terrible.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but also depression. That connects also to depression. Like there's one thing where you eat a lot during depression, and there's another side where you eat little during depression. So I guess that also is different. Yeah.
Also, another discovery. Oh my god, there's so much information in this podcast. Like
I have also one information I wanted to share.
What?
Have you listened to the episode about the pseudoscience, the skull? The pseudoscience.
Phrenology?
Yes, have you listened to the episode of phrenology?
No, I didn't.
One of the guys that like was first like, oh yeah, maybe the brain is more important than the heart actually in our body in like whatever century back in the days. He thought that the brain was made of semen.
Oh.
It just was very funny to me.
That's so funny.
And very disappointing. Why would the think the brain
how would it be structurally sound? How would it have its shape?
Just how the brain was made of semen.
Yeah. Of course, he was probably a man.
Oh,
the researcher was a man.
Yes.
Yeah, no woman would think that.
Yes.
The brain is made of ovaries.
Yeah.
The eggs. Brain eggs. Yes.
Yeah. So he was smart in a way to think that maybe brain is important, but
Yeah, not so smart to think it's
no,
statement.
no.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yes, lots of science today. That was so unrelated. I was talking about taste. How did this get to brain semen?
I don't know. I just thought about it.
Okay.
Was there anything else you were gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say also, like, even when you put something on your tongue, like a food on your tongue, like you start secreting enzymes to start
Oh,
digesting
yeah,
it in
okay,
your
yeah.
system. Like,
It's a bolus now.
yes, it is a bolus. It does. It's not food. It's
No,
bolus. But like,
Exactly.
yeah, it was like, I'm sorry, I really forgot the specific enzyme. It was some digestive enzyme, but basically
Yeah.
they put, like, for example, if you put sugar on your tongue, your liver is gonna start like secreting
Insulin.
insulin. Yes,
Yeah.
pancreas or liver.
Could you
What are those two? You know.
could you force your like if you just put sugar and you don't eat it
Mm.
and then you just take it out? Does that like I don't know if you like insulin? No, that's stupid.
I don't know. You could try it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Us discovering medicine
of course.
through just talking. Actually I think that's how most people in like 18th century did science.
Honestly.
Just talk and just be like, yeah, actually that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like taste is so underrated as a sense perception. Like, we needed to up our science, up our research on that.
So yeah, this podcast is just gonna be PTSD and taste.
Yes. Also, I like in Spanish is me gusta, and it's basically like taste, because like, yes, I have a taste for that. Anyways, we should probably end because it's been a
Oh,
long
wow.
time. So,
Good for us. There's gonna be a lot of cutting because
Yeah.
I was stuttering because I was reading.
anyways, thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye. Nice Christmas time
Yes.
for you.